Hey guys, today I have you reading the section about the Northwest Native Americans. So if you're watching this video, you're going to listen to me read it. You could read it on your own. I know sometimes if you get on Epic after a certain time of day, it won't work. So that's why I'm recording it. Or if you just like to have it read to you, you have that option. So here we go. The Pacific Northwest. The Pacific Northwest is known for forests of moss-draped trees, snow-capped mountains, and deep inlets. For thousands of years, the Haida, Chinook, Nuchatul, Tsimshian, and Tlingits have called this region home. That was a mouthful. The Pacific Northwest Native Americans believed spirits lived in the massive ancient trees surrounding them. Wood from the western red cedar, called the Tree of Life, was used for bowls, boxes, canoes, clothes, hats, and homes. Before cutting the Tree of Life, prayers asked permission from the tree's spirit. Northwest tribes lived in villages facing the sea in long houses built with western red cedar, spruce, or hemlock. Homes could measure 50 by 60 feet, that's pretty big, and stand as tall as a 3-story building. Sometimes a tribe worked together to build a large home with a living area for each family. But if someone built a house for his own family, it was their own. As each member of a family grew up, married, and had children, they were assigned space in the family house. Does your house get crowded with relatives on holidays? Just imagine if they never left. A longhouse could have one large fire pit or individual family pits to keep the home warm. So this is much like the Native Americans in the Northeast, the Iroquois. They built longhouses as well. So it's very similar. It says here the largest home belonged to the chief. His house could be 100 feet long. Wow. All right. Moving on. Chief Maquina of the Nuchatul controlled the fur trade in Nuka Sound on the west coast of Vancouver Island. In 1803, trade in the area stopped after Chief Maquina captured and destroyed the trading ship Boston because he thought the captain of the ship had insulted him. Chief Maquina celebrated by hosting the largest potlatch ceremony anyone had ever seen. All right, transportation. The Pacific Ocean bordered the area, and massive rivers like the Columbia River sliced through the land. How did these tribes get around? That's right, by boat. Northwestern tribes were able to carve a canoe from a single cedar log. The Haida made prized canoes that sometimes measured as long as 70 feet. Try carrying that. It might be easier to lift one of the tiny canoes made for children or the small 2-person canoes used for gathering shellfish or seaweed. Up here it says men set out in huge canoes that could hold up to 60 people to hunt whales, raid other villages, battle in war, or trade with other tribes. Clothing. Can you imagine clothes made from wood? Sounds uncomfortable, doesn't it? Without buffalo hides to tan, women made clothes from the soft inner bark of cedar trees. Cedar provides great protection from the rain, just like your own raincoat. First, the women soaked and boiled the cedar. Then they wove long strips into robes, hats, and capes. They stitched them together using needles made from bird bones and thread from spruce tree roots. The Tlingits wove fancy Chilkat blankets. It could have taken an entire year to weave one blanket from cedar bark and goat hair. Some were decorated with designs the Tlingits believed could talk. After contact with Europeans, Pacific Northwest tribes traded for wool, cotton, and fur. Haida women turned plain Hudson Bay Company blankets into ceremonial button blankets. They embroidered them with traditional designs such as a double-headed eagle and sewed glass beads or abalone shells around the image. So they decorated them up. All right, hunting and trapping. In a land of mountains and towering trees that blocked the sun, people could not grow crops. But there was plenty of food in the streams, oceans, and surrounding forests. Beaches were filled with crabs, oysters, and seaweed. Children gathered berries in the forests. Moose and grizzly bears were targets for hunters. Tribes such as the Makas and the Nuchatul, living on Vancouver Island and the Olympic Peninsula, were skilled whale hunters. Now that's a new one we haven't had yet, whale hunters. They paddled their strong canoes alongside the whale, and one man killed it with his harpoon. A harpoon is just a big long spear. A hunt took days, and a whale could tip them over at any time. Being chief harpooner was such an important position that the honor was handed down from father to son. Wow, you get a whale, that food's going to last for a while, isn't it? As the hunters dragged the dead whale ashore, they were welcomed with songs and drumming. After a ceremony to thank the whale, the Northwest tribes used every part of the animal. They ate the meat and used the bones for tools, combs, and knives. Blubber was eaten and used as oil for candles. Intestines became containers, and sinew was used as rope. Sinew is that it's real stringy and tough. It connects the muscle to bones. All right, so it's like a rope-like material. But the most important food for the Northwest people was salmon. A successful salmon catch provided food to last the winter. Millions of salmon make their way from the ocean to spawn in the rivers and streams where they were born. During spawning, the rivers are so thick with salmon that bears gather to feast in an all-you-can-eat buffet. All right, it talks down here that they used a trap called a fishing weir, was the most popular way to catch salmon. There were many ways to build a weir, but most weirs look like a wooden fence made from branches, pounded into the ocean floor or riverbed. Fishermen could then strike the trapped salmon with a long spear. All right, I'm going to skip over the first salmon ceremony and go on down to trade. Pacific Northwest tribes had plenty of smoked fish and fish oil to trade for caribou hides and birchwood bows. They traded with other coastal tribes in the Inuit to the north and the Cree to the east. But this meant moving goods great distances east of the Rocky Mountains and the Cascade Range. Tribes like the Tlingits transported goods by canoe, and then slaves hauled the heavy loads from the boat. Slaves were forced to carry loads of 100 pounds in baskets strapped to their shoulders and forehead. Wow, that does not sound fun. All right. Let's see what we have here. Oh, totem poles. This is a new one too. We haven't had totem poles yet. Have you ever seen a totem pole? The Haida, Tlingits, and Tsimshian carved their family histories into massive cedar poles. There were several types of poles. Some were placed in front of the home, and a hole at the bottom functioned as a doorway into the house. Other poles were carved for sad and happy occasions. Mortuary totem poles honored the dead, and storytelling totem poles were made for weddings. Welcome poles greeted people just like a welcome sign today greets people coming to your town or city. People put up poles at a potlatch ceremony. Much like your family might celebrate Christmas, Hanukkah, or Kwanzaa with gifts, a potlatch was a gift-giving tradition. It celebrated the birth of a child, marriages, and memorials. To show off his wealth, the host of the potlatch gave away as many gifts as he could, including weapons, blankets, fur, eulachon oil, and even slaves. Sometimes this meant giving away most, if not all, of a family's wealth and belongings. If you're invited to a potlatch, make sure you can carry your gifts home. All All right, so there's a picture here. It shows a totem pole you could make. Okay, a button blanket, a basketry hat, a bear claw necklace, a soft twine bag. All right, and then our last one that we'll read about later will be the Arctic. So I'm going to stop there, and you'll fill out your chart as we normally do for the Northwest, and that'll be it for today. So that's it. Bye.